let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am, for those who maybe are new here or are just starting this journey with us, my name is Sarah Locke, and I am a United Methodist pastor, and I love the church. I grew up in the church. I experienced Jesus as a young person in the church and through a mission choir. And it took me a while to understand my calling and what God wanted to use me for. But once I did, it changed everything. So I grew up in a mission choir. Every summer, I would go away with anywhere from 40 to 90 youth. We would do a week of mission, and then we would do a week of touring a local community and talking about how God could use them. And it was really in that space that I started to experiment with who I am, my gifts, my callings, and where I kind of grew up in faith. And there was a lot of mistake making in that season, like as we should be as teenagers. I was growing into who I am. So I love to sing, not that I have this weird voice thing going on, so I can't really sing right now, but I love to sing. I love music. And so the mission choir piece really just appealed to my heart. So when I was a teenager, I fancied myself a really good singer, a really strong singer. Now, I have decent pitch, and I'm a solid alto these days, and I'm a choir singer, but I thought maybe that I could be a solo singer. So for about 3 or 4 years, somewhere in high school, every time there was an opportunity for a solo, I tried out. And I hoped and I prayed, and I was so heartbroken every time I didn't get chosen. Always, I have good friends from when I was in high school, Katie or Ashley, they always got chosen. They had these beautiful, lofty soprano voices, and that was their gift. And so God used it. But I was always so disappointed, or like somehow I just didn't measure up. Now, I have a really good friend, Hannah. We're still sister friends, best friends. And Hannah is, she's a workhorse. Like one of her gifts is responsibility, and she can pretty much do anything she sets her mind to. So when we were in high school in the same mission group, every year when we would get assigned a mission project, she would get some amazing mission projects. She would be out there like building a deck or building a ramp. She'd be laying floor. She'd be like changing out toilets. And every year, I would get the painting. I can't tell you, in the 14 years I did this mission trip, from the time I was in 8th grade to the time I was married, how many houses and rooms I have painted. And still to this day, there's only been 3 trips total where I haven't painted on them. So, I was always so jealous. Like, why does she get to do the hard things, the fun things, the challenging things, and I'm over here painting? Sometimes we can feel like what we're given to do, our purpose, just isn't that important. Or maybe it's not as cool as other people's. It wasn't until I was a junior, I think, in high school, that the director of our mission choir, Aaron, asked if I would have a speaking part. He asked me to write it, and then he approved it. And that year, I did it. I did my little speaking part. And actually, I was the one that had to ask people to give. So I was the speaker before the offering. And I did okay, and I made some mistakes, and he corrected me, and all was well. And I thought, okay, whatever, I'll do it. Right? The next year, though, he asked me to open the program, to introduce the choir and give all the kind of instructions. And suddenly I realized it was kind of an important job. And I wrote the little piece I would say, and I loved it. And every night after the program was over, we would go stay in host homes, and the people that we would stay with, they would tell me what a nice job I did. And suddenly I realized, like, this is fun. I like this. Maybe I can speak in front of people. The next year I was in college, and he asked me to help the other students in our group to write their pieces that they would say. So I thought I needed to be a solo singer, or I needed to be the person who had the coolest mission project, but God had something in mind for me from the beginning. And now here I am. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But God has a purpose for each one of us. God has something for each one of us to accomplish, to be a part of, and to do. And we're all uniquely gifted. There once was a man named Jeremiah who was called by God. He was given a purpose. And he was given that purpose at a really young age. Some say maybe even as young as 10 or 11 years old. God told him that he would make him a spokesperson to the people for God. He would speak God's words to the people and to power to the kings. He would do important and hard things. When God called Jeremiah, he said these words, "Before I created you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I made you a prophet to the nations." Isn't that beautiful? Before Jeremiah was ever born, God knew him and he knew his purpose. God had a plan for him. And I love this, that God says, "I knew you. I am familiar with you. I know the contours of your soul. I know how you are gifted. I know what you are good at. I know what you struggle with, and I can use all of that." Well, Jeremiah questions it. He says, "But I'm too young. I can't do it." And God touches his mouth and he says, "I will give you the words that you are to say." You know, we aren't all gifted with the same things, but we are all given a purpose. Maybe, my calling kind of developed out of that season of my life where I was experimenting with what I was good at or what I wasn't, what God was calling me to. And I found that I love sharing the gospel with people. I love talking about Jesus with people, and God uses that every single day, every single Sunday. And he uses me, and I get to be a part of his work in the world. Maybe God called you to be a teacher or a librarian. Maybe God called you to be a good neighbor. Maybe God called you to be an encourager. Maybe God called you to be helpful, to fix things for people when they break. Maybe God called you to be a friend. God called you and gave you purpose, right? You have been called. God has gifted you from the beginning of your life. From the time you were being knit together, God had something important for you to do. I wonder, what is God calling you to in this season? Maybe you feel small. Maybe you don't feel so important. Maybe you feel like everyone else's callings are way more exciting than yours. I invite you to open yourself to the possibility that God has something for you to do for him, and it will be amazing, whatever it is. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and share this so that someone else might hear a word of hope. Happy VlogVent, and I'm having fun doing this. I hope you are too. I will see you tomorrow.